Have you ever wondered why you can scroll through Instagram for hours without even realizing it? It's just not about the content, it's all thanks to the great UI and UX design. But what exactly is UI and UX design and why is it so important in today's world? Well, every time you tap a button, swipe a screen, or navigate an app smoothly, there is a UI UX designer behind it. Their job is to make everything feel seamless and user-friendly and keeps you coming back for more. And it goes beyond just websites and apps. UI UX design impacts everything from the devices in your home to the software you use at work. And here's the best part. If you do a Google search for UI UX jobs available now, you will find that there are currently 21,000 plus UI UX designer jobs available in India alone. And if you consider the other job boards, the demand could be even more. However, this is an unconventional career path that requires a strong creative acumen paired with the ability to deeply understand the user's need through comprehensive user research. If you have acquired these skills and landed an interview opportunity, you are in the right place. In this video, we will walk you through some of the most frequently asked UI UX design interview questions. Questions that we have gathered after in-depth analysis of real interviews our learners have faced. We have figured out the most critical concepts that hundreds of interviewers touched upon during an interview. So I'm 100% positive that this video has immense value to offer if you were to crack the next UI UX interview. But before I start taking you through the questions, I would like to request you to enable both subscribe button and the bell icon for Intellipaat's YouTube channel. Now let's look at the very first question.
So starting up with the very first question, which is, can you describe the difference between UI design and UX design? So this is a very basic question, and you can go on by saying for the UI design is, UI means user interface, as a look and feel of a product or app. And it's all about which you see on the screen when you're using website or any application. So the UI, this involves choosing colors, fonts, buttons, shapes, icon, etc. So when you open your favorite app, let's say you're opening Instagram, everything from starting from the logo to sign up button, login button or password, and all about the interface. And all about the interface comes under the UI design. In simple word, you can say that UI design is all about making things look beautiful and organized so that people feel comfortable interacting with the product. So here you can see this Instagram login page, this phone, the placement of this password, login with Facebook. It all comes under UI. Now coming to the UX design. So UX or user experience design is more about how the product feels to use and the overall experience you get from interacting with it. It's all about making sure that everything is smooth, intuitive and makes sense. For example, think of a food delivery app. If it is hard to find the restaurant menu, or if placing an order takes too many steps, the user experience or the UX is very frustrating. Suppose this is a food app. Instead of menu here somewhere, suppose you get to find your menu here. Then it becomes really very frustrating for the users to find the menu and order. So in simple words, you can say that UX design focuses on making the product easy and enjoyable to use, ensuring it solves the user problem without causing any confusion. In a nutshell, you can say that if there is a car, then the UI would be the design of the dashboard, the color of the seat, the color, dashboard, the placement, etc. On the other hand, the UX would be how comfortable the car is to drive, how easy it is to start and stop, and how quickly you can find what do you need while driving. So moving on to our next question, which is, what do you mean by A-B testing? So A-B testing compares two versions of a web page or application to see which performs better by splitting user traffic and analyzing the result. So if you're a user designer, there is nothing more valuable than understanding how the user wants an application to look in a specific manner. So A-B testing is a standard method used to understand the user preferences. For example, every company uses A-B testing to improve design, recommendation, and user experience. So how this A-B testing is exactly performed? So you can see on the screen that there are two interfaces of a mobile phone. One with, so for example, Here you can see that we have two interfaces of a mobile phone, variation A and variation B, right? And variation A consists of contact us button somewhere at the top right, like here, and variation B contains the contact us button, say for example here in the center. And you can see the color, which in variation A is of light blue and in variation B of navy blue. So what will happen? This variation A will be shown to 50% of the visitors, and this variation B will be shown to another 50% of the visitors. And what will be the end result? And what is the end result is that 15% of the conversion are happening from this variation A and 36% of conversions are happening from variation B. So it's pretty understandable that the visitors are liking this interface. So that the company knows this variation B, is more likely to be used by the users. Now coming back to the benefits of this A/B testing, which is first, it increases the user engagement. So A/B testing helps designer to create user-friendly interfaces that enhances the user engagement. Second, it reduces the bounce rate. So A/B testing allows designer to identify and address the usability issues that causes users to leave a website or application. And by understanding the user's behavior and improving the content, the designer can of course reduce the bounce rate and improve the overall experience. So third, conversion rate. So it's pretty obvious that A/B testing can significantly impact the conversion rate by refining the design element that drive the conversion. So that's all for this question. So moving on to our next question, which is what kind of tools are used in UX designing? So you see, the world of digital design, making websites and apps that are easy and enjoyable to use is super important. And for that, there are a lot of tools to help designer do that. So we'll see what kind of tools are suited for which kind of platforms. So we'll be discussing here 6 important tools. So firstly, we'll be starting with Figma. So Figma is one of the most popular tools among designer that comes in handy for wireframing and prototype. So it allows good collaboration and it works well on all platforms and supports comment. So you see, when you choose the tool, the usefulness, collaboration, how easy it is to share the tools with others, and integration, how well the tool integrates with the way you have already using, simplify this and gives a good content out of this. And nowadays, most designer prefers Figma only. So moving on to the next, which is ChatGPT. Okay, fine. So everybody is now using ChatGPT even for their small tasks. So ChatGPT assists with the creative brainstorming and good content generation, which is helpful for generating design ideas and solving technical issues with just a prompt. So next we'll see Framer. Framer is a very powerful design tool which can be used to create interactive and responsive prototypes, and it has built-in code feature for advanced animations. So next we have Behance, which is advanced interactive prototype, and it's ideal for showcasing the detailed design and the creative. Then we have Notion, which is again great for collaborative design documentation. You can collaborate with other designers also, and which can integrate with the design tool for streamlined workflows. Then last we have Dribbble, which is an ideal platform for designer to showcase their portfolios. Moving on to our next question, which is what do you mean by design thinking? So design thinking is like putting yourself in someone else's shoes to solve a problem. So you imagine you're designing a new chair, but instead of just making it look good, you would think about how people will use it. And how will it be comfortable? Will it be easy to move around? And how can you make it better for someone who sits all day? If you're just preparing for interviews, if you're just preparing for any exams, of course, you will need a comfortable chair to sit upon. So in simple terms, design thinking is all about understanding the real people's need first. You listen to their problems and observe how they interact with product and then come up with the ideas to make things easier or useful. And what are the goals of design thinking? Which is creating user-friendly solution and solving complex problems. So, to make you understand better, we have taken this simple example. Let's imagine you have 2 cups, cup A and cup B. Cup A is small and it has thin handle that is hard to hold. Okay, and when you pour tea into it, the handle gets hot, making it very uncomfortable to use. Cup B, on the other hand, is bigger, and when it's filled with the tea, it stays cool and increases the usability and desirability, making overall design very aesthetically pleasing. So now you see most of the users will like cup B rather than cup A because of its usefulness, usability, and desirability. So you see that design thinking helps us figure out why cup A is not working well for the users. Maybe people struggle to hold it properly or even spill tea while trying to grip the thin. So focusing on how people actually use the cup, now we have designed the cup V, which is very easy to handle. So what are the stages of design thinking? The very first stage is define, which means analyzing the problem to define the core problems. Second, understand the needs of people. You have to understand what people actually want. Like in this case, the designer must have analyzed why people are preferring B rather than preferring A, then coming up with the innovative ideas. Now, as the problem has been identified, the designer must have thought that okay, now let's mend our cup A to cup B to solve the problem. Then start creating solution and try out the solution to evaluate the product with real uses. So that's all for the design thinking. Moving on to our next question, which is what is a design system? So starting this, we'll take a very simple example. Suppose when you go to any office as a UI or UX designer, you don't need to create everything from scratch. You simply take their pre-existing fonts, colors, and button that have already been decided. Fine. Not very good to understand? Okay. Not very good to understand? Okay, fine. Let's take example of Google. So when you visit Google products, like you all have Gmail, Google Drive, or Google Calendar, you notice that they all look very similar. The buttons they have, the colors, the font, they are very consistent, and the icons are recognizable across all the platforms, right? This is because Google uses a design system called the material design. Fine, let me show you. You see here, this mail, this calendar, the Chrome, the Meet, everything is very consistent. And so it provides a set of rules for how everything should look and behave. Button colors, icon typography, spacing, etc. Now, when a designer or developer at Google needs to create a new feature, they don't start from the scratch. Rather, they follow this system, making sure everything aligns with the established style. So the next question which should arise in your mind, that why do we need a design system? So for consistency, efficiency, and better user experience, because it means a unified brand and design. It speeds up the design and development by reusing the components, and it ensures smooth and intuitive navigation. So in short, we can say that a design system helps everyone on the team follow the same rules, making the work faster and user experience is smoother. So moving on to our next question, which is what is a prototype and what different types of prototypes you create during a design process. Okay, fine. So think of it as you're doing a work, or maybe you're making an application. You have invested your heart and soul and your time in making it. And when your final product is created, you find that the customer is not actually liking your final products. So at that time, your all the efforts and energy go in vain. So to solve that problem, there comes prototype. So you can think of it as a rough draft you make before jumping into a real deal. So what exactly is prototyping? So a prototype is a rough version of a product to test design's idea before the full development. You can also think of it as a simplified version that lets you if things are working as planned or not, without putting too much time or money into it. It's kind of trying out an outfit before buying it. So what's the benefit? It identifies design flow early, saves the time, test user flow and interaction. So when you're starting making any application, there comes the idea, then the prototype and the feedback. Now, there are three main types of prototype: low fidelity, medium fidelity, and high fidelity. So talking about low fidelity, suppose you have got a pen and paper, you just draw a rough idea of how the app will look, sketching out what screen would be like, and just showing all the buttons and alignment, and how the product image is placed. It's a very fast way of getting feedback without going too deep. Second, medium fidelity. So now we level up. So we have created the sketch. Now it's time to use digital tools to make things clickable. For example, you design a wireframe where users can click on the product image and it will take them to product details. Like, it's all the interconnection. Like, you see, this is connected to this one and this is connected to this one. It's still simple, no fancy color or image, but now you can test how users will navigate your app. Does clicking, so suppose the user is testing, so does clicking here takes them to the right place or not? So this is the right place, and suppose they clicked here and it took them to some other. And what tools we can use in this medium fidelity prototype is Envision. Then moving on to a third and final stage, which is high fidelity prototype. This is where things get real. Your prototype looks almost exactly like the final app. You have got real products, photos, actual colors, font, and even working buttons that take users to different pages, just like the real thing. So you can show your high fidelity prototype and ask, does this feel right? This is your last chance to test before you get into the full production. So by using these different types of prototypes, you're making sure that everything works according to how you planned, and if there occurs any error in any stage, you can figure out then and there only. So moving on to our next question, which is, what are the laws in UI UX that can help you guide through the design process? So UI UX laws are essentially the design principle that help guide the creation of intuitive, user-friendly digital experiences. So you can think of these laws as the toolkit that helps you create design that are easy for users to navigate and understand. So instead of reinventing the whole wheel from the scratch, you can rely on these proven guidelines to ensure that your design's choices make sense to users, reduce your frustration, and lead more enjoyable interaction. So when you will apply these laws correctly, these will help make digital production that not look good but also functions efficiently. So let's talk about the 5 major laws. First is Higgs law. So what does it mean? It means the more choices you give to people, the longer it takes them to decide. What's meaning of this? So imagine being at a restaurant with 50 items on the menu, hard to pick, right? So what is the tip? The tip is keep your design simple. Keep it simple and limit the option to help user make decision quickly. So for example, on a checkout page, you would only want to show the most important option like the payment method and the shipping detail rather than bombarding users with too many choices. Coming secondly on Jacobs law, what it means people prefer using interfaces that feel familiar. Think about how easy it is to use a new app when it's similar to other you have used. So keeping the interfaces similar and familiar like of the previous ones. And what's the tip? Stick to the common design pattern. Example, most apps which you have used have a home icon at the bottom that takes you to the main page. And if you switch the home button to some random corner, user might feel. And if you make that user button to some random corners, user might get confused. Coming to our third law, which is Fitts law. What it means? The time it takes to click on something depends on how big it is and how far it is from the user. So larger and closer button are faster to click. What's the tip? Make important button like buy now or submit big and easy to reach that it can be visible from the user's eye. So example, have you ever noticed that how send button in a messaging app is usually big and right next to where you type? That is the Fitts law in action. Talking about the fourth law, which is Miller's law. What it means people can only remember about 7 things at a time. If you overwhelm them with too much info, they'll forget or miss the things. What's the tip? The tip is don't overload user with too many details in one go. So hard to understand, right? So example, think of an online form. So instead of showing 20 fields at once, break them into section or steps so users can focus on a few items at a time. Now last, Gestalt principle. What it means, people naturally group related item together. If things look like they belong together, they will be perceived that way. So what's the tip? organize similar content clearly so user know where to find things. Example, when you shop online, okay, you have shopped online from various platforms, Flipkart, Myntra, Amazon, like clothing or electronics. You wouldn't mix clothes with kitchenware in one section, right? So there's where this law comes. It helps user quickly navigate to what they need. Moving on to our seventh question, which is how can you conduct UX evaluation? So, what do we mean by UX evaluation? So, UX evaluation or user experience evaluation is a process used to assess how well a product like a website or application or any system meets the need of user. So, it's like crucial process that helps designer like you understand whether a product is hitting the mark or needs something tweaking. Like if the product is good to go or it really needs some modification. So this is where UX evaluation comes. So what are the steps? The first step, as you can see on the screen, is identify your target product. So first thing first, you need to choose a product you want to evaluate. This could be website, an app, or even a physical product. For example, let's say you want to evaluate a fitness app that helps users track their workouts and meal. Then after you have identified the target product, the second step which comes is determine your question. Next, think about what you want to find out from this app. Is it easy to navigate? Do users find it visually appealing? Are there any features that users struggle with? So these questions will help you guide your evaluation. Third step, plan the method. Now you need to decide how you're going to gather information. You might consider using a fix of method like surveys, interviews, observation. So for the fitness app, you might decide to do a short survey and observation sessions to find out where exactly the users are more interested in. The fourth step is collect and analyze data. So time to put your plan into action. Let's say you gather a group of 5 friends who use the app. You ask them to complete a few tasks like logging, tracking a workout while you observe. Take notes on what they find easy or confusing. Afterward, compile this information to see patterns and insight. Then, after gathering and analyzing the data, fifth step is provide suggestion for the improvement. Now comes the fun part, suggesting improvement. Based on your finding, you might recommend revising the layout or adding tooltips or maybe other modification which users might have suggested you. And you can present all these suggestions in your evaluation report, which will include section like product description, questions, method, results, and suggestions. In this way, you have effectively conducted a UX evaluation that not only help improve the app, but that also enhances the user satisfaction. So it's kind of win-win situation for both designer and the user. So moving on to our next question, which is, can you explain what are micro interactions? So micro interactions are like small, quick reactions in a user interface that happen when you do something, giving you feedback instantly. They are designed to make digital interaction feel smoother and more natural. So just the definition is not enough to make you understand what is meant by what is exactly micro interaction. So imagine you're scrolling through a web and you notice a scroll bar moving down as you scroll. Like whenever you're reading an article or editorial, you must have noticed a small scroll bar which is also moving as you scroll. That's a micro interaction in action. It's triggered by your movement and the system responds by showing you exactly where you are on the page. Or another example you can take of like when you refresh the page, you can see that the pull to refresh action in an app where you are swiping down to reload the page and a cool animation confirms that something is happening. So micro interaction can be trigger, rules, feedbacks, or modes. Okay, fine. We'll take the example of micro interaction in Spotify. So trigger. So when you're playing song, you can see this arrow in this green box. So you can see this arrow in the green box. What is saying that clicking the play button for a song. Then rules. If the song is available, it plays. If not, an error message appears. So sometimes there happens that some songs are not there on Spotify. So there comes an error message that song not available. Then feedback. The play button changes color, example from white to green to indicate that the song is playing. You might have noticed, of course, we all listen song from Spotify. And a brief animation shows a wave or pulse to visualize the music. Then comes the loop. So after the song's end, the next song in the playlist plays automatically. If a song is skipped, a Pop-up suggests related track based on the listening habits. Modes highlight song title, artist, and albums. Of course, you want to know which singer has sung this song. You can all get from it. Or pause mode displays a play button indicating the user can resume the playback. So all these micro interaction in Spotify ensure that there is micro interaction enhances your experience by giving you the instant feedback. So moving on to the next question, which is what is information architecture? So what is information architecture? Imagine you are organizing a library. Okay, you have hundreds of books and you need to put them in categories like fiction, non-fiction, mystery, romantic, and place signs to help people easily find what they're looking for. Similarly, in UI design information architecture, the process of organizing and structuring the content so that user can navigate and find what they need quickly and easily. You can think of it like as a blueprint. And good information architecture makes sure that everything is in the right place and easy to navigate, improving overall UX. So you can see this is the information hierarchy of an e-commerce site. So you see this is the home, this is the location, this is search, this is service, product, payment. So when you will choose payment, you'll be taken to the choose method of payment page. When you are choosing product, the catalog, add product to cart. When you're choosing service, you can file a complaint. You can file the complaint. When you're choosing search, you can go and search for products and location, track location and manual entry. So what are the key components? Key components are organization, that grouping and categorizing content, example menu, labeling. The labeling is very important, which is consistent naming for the clear navigation. Navigation, your app should consist the navigation also to guide user movement throughout the interface. Search, tools which will help user to find the content easily. So coming on to what is importance of information architecture in UI design. So it improves the navigation. As I told you, it segregates the segment which makes the navigation easier. It enhances the user experience. Of course, nobody would go to an application where things are not properly defined. Everyone prefers a more enjoyable and user-friendly experience. Supports visual design and user-centric design. So good IA keeps users in mind. When changes are made, the existing user part should remain intuitive, minimizing cognitive load. So when new content or feature are added, a well-structured IA helps minimize cognitive load on users. If users already know how to navigate the existing section, they will have less mental efforts to understand where new features fits in. And it improves usability and guides user behavior. So this is all for the information architecture. So now that you have a better understanding of what do you mean by information architecture, let's move forward to see our next question, which is what are some common UX design principles? So to understand what do we mean by UX design principle, firstly, we should have a clarity of what our UX is. So UX design is creative process that involves user research, prototyping, right? We discussed what do we mean by prototype. So UX design is a multidisciplinary field that involves creating products that provide meaningful and relevant experience to users. Have you ever been in a design meeting where you couldn't agree on what a button should look like or what copy to include in your form? So to overcome this, design principles were made so that there is no conflict between two individuals. They act as a guideline to return throughout your iterative design process. And these principles benefit design team because they help you design better, develop solution, of course, after discussing, and work more collaboratively and work together, avoiding the conflicts. So let's discuss the principle one by one. So this site I found very useful. So this is a site I found useful for this question. We'll go and see the UX design principle from there. Okay, so 7 fundamental user experience. So what are the 7 user experience design principles? First is user centricity, consistency, hierarchy, context, user control, accessibility, and usability. So come, user centricity. So what can you deduce from this particular image? Something might be coming into your mind, right? So user centricity means putting users' need first and making decision based on what you know about them and what they want from the product. For example, whosoever has designed the SketchUp bottle must have a clear idea that people nowadays follow this type of design more than they follow this type of design. So, user centricity is to build the UX process starting from the user's research to identify the problem you need to solve. Second is consistency. So, consistency is creating products that solve specific user problem, and it's essential to adhere to the UX design principle for the consistency. So, firstly, so all of us are familiar with these Google designs, right? So in the first row, the icon used are consistent in size but not in the style. And what I mean by style is they're not consistent in terms of color. So it's very important for a good application that it should be consistent. By being consistent with what users expect, you will create a product that's easy to use with low learning curve for the user. Third is hierarchy. The third of the UX principle, hierarchy, is important as it shapes how the user navigate a product. So your product should follow a proper hierarchy. For example, in this desktop layout, you can see there's a proper hierarchy like get involved, about us, our work, donate. And it considered how individual elements are laid out on a page or a screen. So more important elements you can emphasize by placing them at the top of the page, using larger fonts or color. So moving on, which is context. So when designing a solution to a user problem, you can't design in a vacuum, right? You need to understand who your users are and what context which they will use your product. So for example, some application are there which works good on the desktop mode, but it's not well on the mobile browsing. So your website must be optimized to this form. For example, mobile browsing is now the primary way most users access your website. So your website must be optimized to this mobile friendly views. So even though the website below looks beautiful when you're browsing on a tab, it's not set up for the mobile browsing. You can see it's not looking that good. So this problem is also, so understanding the context around the interaction between your product and the end user will help you factor in the potential limitation. Fifth is user control. So another important element of UX is giving the user the right amount of control over how they interact with product. They should not interact more, they should not interact less, but there should be a fixed control on how they should use. Sixth is accessibility. The sixth principle is accessibility, which is critical to use UX, and all UX designers have a responsibility to understand what it means accessibility. So one example of designing for accessibility could be to use high color contrast to ensure that text is legible for users with visual impairments. So you see that it should be accessible to all the categories of users. 7 is usability. So you can't create a good user experience if your product isn't usable. So of course, it's an essential UX design principle. For instance, the Uber app is extremely usable and easy to get started with, making it very simple. So your application should be very simple to use. Like it should not contain the field, which is of course not at all understandable by the users. Fine. So as you can see on the screen, these all are the key UX principles. Moving on to the next question, which is you're designing an app for online grocery shopping. You describe the onboarding process for new users. Okay, fine. Suppose you have designed an app for online grocery shopping for all the kitchen items, all the vegetables, fruits, and some new user is about to test your data application. So how will your application look like? So there should be a welcome screen, like simple intro with key benefit like fresh grocery, something like that. Second should be account creation. Sign up via email, phone, or social media. Then app tour. Briefly walk through a key features like search, cart, checkout, payment. Then location access. Of course, you will be needing location access for delivering the items. So request location access for accurate delivery. Personalization, gather preferences like favorite categories for recommendation. Like you must have seen like the favorite option, the hardship option, which makes your items favorite. Okay, fine. When user has added the item, it has granted the location access, then the last step is payment setup, which offer control with features like undo or clear navigation. So this can be your onboarding process for an online grocery shopping app. Moving on to the next question, which is how do you apply usability heuristic in the design process, and can you give an example of how you have used them to improve a project? So to To understand it better, imagine you're using a new app and everything just makes sense. You know where to click, you get immediate feedbacks, like where next to go, and it's hard to make a mistake. That's the magic of usability heuristic. What exactly do you mean by usability heuristic is general guidance for improving interface usability, ensures user-friendly, intuitive designs. So the key heuristic are visibility of system status. So suppose you're going through an e-commerce site and you're just scrolling of what to add to your cart. So visibility should be there. That it should inform users about the ongoing process, example loading bars. And users should have control and freedom. Like they should provide easy undo or redo option. Match between system and real world. So you should use familiar terms or icon which matches between your system and real world. Think of icons like shopping cart to represent your cart, a magnifying glass for search feature. Then consistency and standards. Imagine if each page of an app had different layout. It would be super confusing. The key here is consistency. Make sure your all button colors and layout behave in the same manner. For example, the checkout button is at the bottom right corner. Keep it there on every screen. Like it should not happen that in one page your checkout button is at top left, another page it's in center, and then the next in the corner. So it should maintain the consistency and standards. So that's all for the key heuristic. Let's move to our next question, which is define universal design. So universal design refers to creating interfaces that are accessible and usable by everyone, regardless of their age, ability, or background. Suppose there is this application which only youngsters can use and the old age people can't. So that application will not be considered a good UX. So that application will not be considered in a good user experience. So the core idea is to make sure that so as many people as possible can use the product easily and effectively. And so here's the breakdown. Equitable use. The design should be useful and accessible to the people with diverse abilities. For example, a website should have features like screen readers for visually impaired people or caption for videos. So for caption for videos to accommodate hearing impaired users. Second, flexibility in use. So this means accommodate different preferences and abilities. So for example, providing both touch gestures and button. Which allows users to choose how they should interact with the interface. Third is simple and intuitive use. So application should be very simple. So not contain complex design, which should be easy to understand regardless of the UX. Then there comes size and space for the approach. The interface should be designed so that people can access and use it regardless of their body and size, posture or mobility. This include make sure buttons and other touch points are large enough to space properly for each use. So by following these principles, you can ensure that product works for as many as people possible, making the UX more enjoyable for everyone. So you can see here. This is a good UX, whether this is not. So when you order something, okay, when you ordered, you added in cart, payment done, and then there is this order option whereas here you can see you added something, fine, you paid, you're choosing, you're adding, you paid, and then there is this order button. So you see this is a very good interface. So you see this is more enjoyable for the users. Moving on to our next question, which is how do you approach designing for different user personas and their specific need in a UI project? So designing for different user personas in UI project. You're designing an application. So it is very important to conduct surveys and analyze data to understand user need on what's the demand for the user or what's the current trend which user are following. Then there should be persona development. You should create personas detailing demographics, goals, and challenges. What challenges can you face or what are the goals which you need to fulfill? Then comes empathy mapping. Visualize user thought and motivation to identify their pain points. So remember we talked an example of a cup in the beginning in which the user were finding very difficult to drink with the small cups. So that's what the pain point, and we need to analyze what's user's pain point exactly is. Then tailored design solution. We should come with customized design elements for each persona's need. Then we should develop prototyping to save our time and effort. And then iterative design and design based on feedback to serve all personas effectively. So moving on to our next question, which is what are the key principles of visual design? Okay, so the key principles of visual designs are balance, contrast, alignment, repetition, hierarchy, and white space. So a principle is a way something is done and this meaning pulls through to the world of design. In other word, you can say in other word, you can know how to use design element to follow certain guidelines. First key principle, which is contrast. So contrast is found when there is a dissimilarity between two elements. So highlight the differences to draw the attention. For example, you can make colors of your buttons differently, which will clearly show that okay, there is this difference. Then comes the repetition. Repetition involves using elements that are same or almost same throughout the design. So in a scenario where there is collection of relative design like branding, repetition can help make the brand or idea identifiable. Okay, fine. So we discussed the Google example, right? They were following the same colors and all. That comes under repetition. So alignment for any application to look good, it should have a proper alignment. There should be organization of elements along a grid for structure. Like if you buy a phone and you don't see a proper alignment, the apps are not properly aligned, of course you will not like it. Then comes the white space. There should be a proper amount of empty space. There should be a proper empty space for the clarity and focus. And there comes balance. So harmonious layout through even distribution means your design should not contains odd and even kind of distribution, and proper harmony and balance should be there. And then the last comes hierarchy. So what we mean by hierarchy is this points to the chief idea or element found in a design to create a visual hierarchy. So hierarchy is often used when there are many elements present in a design and there are same things that need to stand out more than others. So remember, if everything is made to stand out, you might find that nothing stands out and it's just a little overwhelming. So there should be a proper hierarchy. The most important, so firstly, you determine what's most important. For example, heading. It should be highlighted. Then there comes the second subheading. Then the third. So there should be a clear order of importance using size and placement. So these all were the key principles of visual design. Moving on to our last question, which is what roles do wireframe and prototype play in your design process and how do you handle iteration based on user testing? So wireframe and prototypes are essentially tools in the design process, especially when creating digital products like app or website. So firstly, we'll talk about wireframes. So think of wireframes as blueprint for your design. So they outline the basic structure and layout of a page, helping you visualize where elements like buttons, image, or text will be placed. So here your focus is purely on the functionality and structure without getting distracted by orders, without getting distracted by colors, fonts, or graphics. So what is the purpose? The purpose is outline the structure and layout of the page, like just the rough structure of your website. How will it look like and how your images or buttons will be placed? Will it look appealing? Will it look bad? And what's the benefit? Benefit is they help you focus on key structures and users flow, ensuring that the interface works before worrying about the aesthetics. Then comes the prototypes. We already discussed about the prototypes. So prototype on the other hand take things a step further. They are interactive model that simulate how real user will experience the product. Like you can call it as a dummy product of your actual product. And the benefit, which of course allows testing and refining design concept with real users, interaction, making sure that the product is not just pretty but also functional. It saves you time and cost. So coming on to the iteration based on user testing. So once you have completed with the wireframes and prototypes, you'll gather user feedback to understand what's working and what's not. So you have completed everything. You have made wireframes. You have made sure that your website looks fine. You have made that prototype at each stage. So now you have to understand how users will find out. So by testing with real users, you identify pain points and area for improvement. So this cycle of testing, analyzing, and iterating helps make sure the final product delivers a great UI. That the final product delivers a great UX and UI. So in summary, wireframe focuses on structure. Prototype simulates real use and they both work hand in hand to create and improve your product through user testing. So that's all from my side. Follow Intellipaat for more technical contents like this.